welcome to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Alice Li Hagan. You are watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight, a weekly conversation with inspiring leaders, community-minded citizens, and fascinating professionals, both locally and internationally, who contribute to the well-being of our state. Today joining us is Chancellor Erika Lacro from the Honolulu Community College. Chancellor Lacro, it's an honor to have you here, and you're my first Chancellor as a guest, so I'm looking forward to our conversation.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Now, let me say a little bit about your background first. I know that before we came in, you told me that you've had quite a few positions in the university, and you're passionate about education. So you started off with the TIM School, which is the Travel Industry Management, and then you slowly moved up to the Vice Chancellor level of Academic Affairs at Honolulu Community College, right? And of course, you are also an Omidyar Fellow graduate from 2013 to 2014. So, and I've read a lot of interesting articles about you. You were in the 20 among 20 in the Hawaii Business Magazine.
Right.
So tell us what is happening at Honolulu Community College.
Sure. Honolulu's got a lot of great things going on. Not only are we looking at all of our programs and expanding where we can, we also are changing the physical appearance of the campus. We have a new science building that's slated to come up, break ground probably at the first of 2016. So that's really exciting. That campus hasn't had a new building for a very long time. So we're excited about that. And it is really going to change the dynamics of how we can deliver our science and STEM courses. So not only are we looking at programs and investing in new programs, looking at those that aren't performing as well and figuring out why to make it better for students, but also the whole physical landscape is a great change for us.
That is something that we would look forward to, as you said. Yeah, I haven't seen a lot of new buildings across the system. Now, you mentioned STEM education, and I was reading that recently you started a program for auto mechanics to service those hybrid vehicles. Right. I know that's just one of many other programs. So why the focus on STEM then?
So for our state, the university is very focused on getting more STEM graduates out into the workforce. So all of the campuses are really looking at all of their STEM offerings. Mine typically have to do with more of the hands-on training, as well as within our liberal arts program, your traditional sciences. So we have programs like aeronautics maintenance, where students are learning the mechanics of aircraft. Our automotive technology program is one that you were referring to about the hybrid vehicles. And that, I think, is a good example of where we have to look at what are the newer technologies being adopted in the workforce and making sure that our students have those skill sets when they enter the workforce. But also that specific program is also targeted for some of the smaller mom and pop automotive facilities that we have on the island, that now that these cars are coming off warranty, they're going to be servicing more and more of them and more into the future years. And so we are providing that kind of non-credit training to boost up people's skills so they could maybe diversify their business and begin working in other areas. So that's a good example of how that technology is really changing the way programs look.
Now, the focus is obviously on technology. You talk about STEM, you talk about, I guess, aeronautics engineering. I guess the question is, what do you see? Well, I was reading your website, and of course you talk about 21st century workforce. So what is that like? What is a 21st century workforce like for you?
So for our programs, when students come in to get their associate's degree, we want them to not only get whatever skill set it is that they're focused on getting, whether it be cybersecurity training, even if it's not technology-based, we do early childhood education. We have a whole variety of programs, 25 different things to pick from. But what we want is a well-rounded employee that will enter that workforce. So an example we have is in that automotive field, not only do they need to know the technical skills to work on the vehicles, but there's a lot of other skills that you don't always think coincide with that, whereas the dealers need to make sure that we've got appropriate reports written to take care of insurance claims. So it's being able to have, you know, that wider skill set, the being able to write, to communicate well, to understand mathematics. And so all of that is kind of that well-rounded piece of education that the workforce is looking for. And no matter what program you come out of with us.
Right, yes, and I recall talking to even some of my colleagues. At the end, employers seem to be looking for people, no matter what industry, they're looking for people skill, communication skill. Now, right now, I think I'd like to ask my producer to share with the audience a video on one of the commencement. And I guess, producer, if you could roll that video on We Are Going Forward.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the procession of the candidates for graduation from Honolulu Community College's class of 2014.
What an honor to speak to you in this celebration today, this momentous occasion of great accomplishments. I learned that in my English class. I know that most of our students graduating today have been full-time students and full-time workers. I know that many of our students have families to take care of, and I know many of our students will be the first ones to graduate college in their family today.
Success in academics is so much more than attaining a degree that confirms we have the qualifications to perform our duties. It is a step forward in a life that not only affects us, but our families and our communities. We are going somewhere. We are going forward.
Now, I know it's always exciting to be at a commencement, so I guess that's what we're working towards. But tell us a little bit about the student population, those people coming in for their technical training.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for our campus, with the 25 different programs, some of them are the only ones of their type in the whole state, and even more so in the whole Pacific region. So some of them are quite unique.
So like what kind of programs would be one of its kind then?
So we have a vessel repair program that really teaches students the basics of boat building skills, as well as all of the plumbing and electrical maintenance that goes into that. So that's one that's very unique. The aeronautics maintenance is another one that's quite unique. And then we have some that are also on other campuses, or we have programs that feed into the four-year institutions. So students have the option to finish with us and then move on and transfer. So because it's such a really wide variety of different types of programs, for instance, fashion technology is a popular one that's gotten a lot of attention as our students have made it to Project Runway as some of the finalists. Yeah, so that's exciting. But on average, we have about 60% of our students are male. The average age is around 24 years old. Of course, we're working more and more with local high schools to get more high school graduates coming directly into us. But we also tend to attract a lot of folks that are either looking to do a career switch and need to upgrade their skills, or never went to college, or maybe started somewhere along the line and life happens and didn't finish. And so we're trying to get them to come back to us and finish a degree or a certificate of some sort.
Now, you said some of your programs or some of the students go to Manoa eventually. So how big is that student population who go on to get their degree program?
We are transferring, we're graduating about 530 students a year. And that, as I mentioned earlier to you before we started, that we have some performance measures that we need to meet. We also have performance measures along our transfer lines too. So we're looking at graduating or getting more and more students to transfer over. And so they transfer both to Manoa, a lot of times after studying their liberal arts courses. But we also have some really unique feeders into UH West Oahu. So for instance, you can do with us, we have much like a cybersecurity ascent program, computer engineering, networking technology, and our students can do 2 years with us, and then they can do an advanced certificate, and then they can transfer over to UH West Oahu, and they only have 1 year left to get a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
So there's some really great pathways there.
No, this is great because we hear in the news almost every day now about cybersecurity. I guess the recent one was the breach of the federal government OPM personal information file. So, no, this is great. And I have a son who is a teenager, so I told him, I said, well, that's another pathway that you could pursue. That's something that never, I mean, it wasn't in our days.
Right.
You touch on something really interesting. You mentioned that, so the student population is about 4,000, right?
We usually have a little over 4,000 credit students, and then we have another 3,000 apprenticeship students. So our campus does a very unique flip-flop during the day. So if you were on campus between 7 and 2:30, it looks like a typical community college campus, the younger student population. And then at about 3 o'clock, all of the apprenticeship program students come on. So they've been working all day in their trade, whether it be for a construction company or what have you. So then they come in from 3 to 7, kind of varies based on what program it is. And they will then take classes in our classroom environment with our apprenticeship instructors. So once they get through that program, and each one is a little different in terms of the hours and the length of time, but at that point then they graduate to being journeymen, and then they have more opportunities within the organization they work for. So it's really a unique flip-flop, very different student populations, but it also creates kind of a challenge for me to manage, right? Because you've got to make sure you've got classroom space for both programs, and so that's unique.
See, I guess like this picture here, this is probably working professionals or journeymen, as you call them, because they look a little bit older than what I would imagine a typical student is like, right?
And in a lot of cases, folks are looking at taking on new careers, you know, switching and needing that skill set to upgrade, so we're able to provide that.
I have so many questions that I like to ask you, but this one first foremost. You mentioned that you're trying to get high school students coming to Honolulu Community College and to study trades, to become a tradesperson. How is that? How do you outreach to students? Because I know that we always hear, okay, higher education is important. You go to university. You get this major, get that major, but then of course you still need people who have to be electricians, they like the vessel maintenance program, you need tradesmen like this. So how do you convey that message to high school kids?
We've got two really unique programs that one has been long-standing, another one is something we've just really pumped up and have been talking more with the high schools about over the last year. The first one is what we call our Construction Academy.
Okay.
We have about 12 faculty members who come from the trades, so that they've kind of retooled themselves by coming into education. But we actually put them out into the high school community. So they're teaching at the high schools, and the students are earning dual credit. So if they choose to come to Honolulu CC after they graduate from high school, they've already earned some college credits with them. So that's great. But those faculty members are also key in getting students exposed to what college is. It's not so scary, can think about it a little bit more. And then the second program that we're working on now, there's actually 3, but the one that we've just launched in the last year is what we're calling the early college model. So our faculty will go out maybe once the DOE schedule is done at the end of the day, and we're offering usually the first year courses like Speech 151 or Economics or Accounting 201, those types of courses, English, math, we're offering them at the high school. So a student really has the ability to enter college having already earned, in some cases, up to a semester's worth of coursework. And then the third program where we're engaging the high schools is a program called Jumpstart.
Okay.
So that's meant to focus on students who want to go into one of those trades. So their senior year, they can decide not to go to high school, but instead come to us full-time. So
Wow.
we have this option in about 7 or 8 different programs.
Okay.
So they would come to us and we'll give them a full schedule and they'll just really be a true college student while still being a high school student. And whatever requirements they had left to graduate from high school, we deliver that through whether it be the math or our liberal arts or our humanities courses. They earn those credits. So by the time they're handed their high school diploma, they've done a whole year's worth of a career in technical ed field, which is motivation to just come back and do one more year.
Oh, absolutely. I remember talking to my son and some of his friends about it, and they said, yeah, I'd like to get to community college before I get to high school. So it's really good to hear what you're doing with high schools. Now, we're coming on our first break, so I guess after the break, I'm interested in asking you about, you talked about the student population. They're actually, I think your Honolulu CC actually has more male population. It's
Yes.
larger than female. I think that's the only institution within the system. So I guess challenges about managing an institution like that. Great, thank you. My guest is Chancellor Erika Lacro, and she is the Chancellor of Honolulu Community College. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island. I work in the ER there. But on Tuesday afternoons, I get to come and spend 45 minutes to an hour with Jay Fidel and the ThinkTech staff. They're terrific professionals. They help us to bring some of the leading cutting-edge topics here across our state to you. So you can join us at our show on healthcare in Hawaii to talk with leaders from across all the spectrum of health in our state, or you can join us for any other show where we talk about economic development or tourism or some really eclectic programs too. So really, we'd love to see you here on our show. Thanks for joining us and thanks for supporting us.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My guest today is the Chancellor from Honolulu Community College, Chancellor Erika Lacro. If you like, you can also tweet us your question at ThinkTechHI. So Chancellor Lacro, we were talking about all these amazing technology programs that Honolulu CC has developed, and this new building is coming up. Now, before the break, you mentioned that 60% of your student population are men. So how does that work, and how is it a challenge for you?
There's some really good parts to that, and part of that has to do with different funding sources.
Okay.
So we have what's called in higher education non-traditional students, and there's different funding mixes that can be used to support those students. So say for instance in our carpentry program, the non-traditional student is going to be the female because they're not typically in those fields.
Right.
It's where the population, there's a pretty big divide, as well as if you look at it from the flip side, we have the only cosmetology program within the University of Hawaii. And so typically those are normally females. So when a male is in that classroom environment, they're a non-traditional student, of which then there's different funding sources to help provide books, tools, and things of that nature. But the switch in population really has to do with the types of programs we offer, I think. You'd find in our welding program, our electrical technology program, those tend to traditionally be male, more male-driven. But then in our early childhood program, you have predominantly a stronger female population. So it's really program by program where you see these differences.
Now, with a lot of these programs that are, I guess, traditionally male-dominated, whether it be in construction or other, I guess, maintenance industry, are there ways that you're reaching out perhaps to young women to get them to come into the program?
Right. So we have specific recruiting mechanisms where we try to get ourselves out into environments that we wouldn't normally be in, just to let people know about the programs that we've got. Another unique one is we run the apprenticeship program for Pearl Harbor. So we're training all the apprentices that work on the ships, the submarines, that actually maintain them. And so those folks may be learning welding skills or pipe fitting skills. And those folks work through the same type of apprenticeship training that our on-campus folks in that field would get, but they're on the Pearl Harbor base. And so you may be seeing some of those photos as well as we do this interview, because that's a big part for us. So we recruit usually about 130 a year. So they're cycling through in a two-year window. And it's a great program. They're great wages. You're employed by Pearl Harbor while you're going through the apprenticeship program. So it's like being paid to go to school in some cases. And then when you're done, you get promoted into that workforce. And those are really great jobs to have, very high in demand. I think for that 130 slots that they open up a year, and it fluctuates based on their retirements and their need, they get usually about 4,000 applicants. So they are really able to take, the top picks that they want to be able to bring in.
I always remember that because it's always front page news, right?
Yes.
No, but this is great to know. Now, whether it's community college or whether it's in Manoa, West Oahu, we always try to graduate students. But I know that we've had challenges in trying to get students to graduate on time. I guess as part of the community colleges, and we have all 7 of them, what are some of the unique challenges that you have to deal with?
I think for my campus's probably biggest challenge is trying to get students to take more credits. We know that if you take a full load versus being part-time, your success rates go up dramatically. We're able to collect data now to be able to analyze what are the factors, and we call it predictive analytics, but what are the factors that are gonna contribute to you being much more likely to graduate or earn that certificate. And so being able to dive into that data and say, okay, if you're full-time, you've got a better shot at graduating. It's really quite fascinating to be able to piece that apart. So the community colleges, we realize that our students have specific challenges when they come to us. Some of them are really making life changes. We know that if you're focused on work in school, sometimes school can take the back seat. So we've built a retention office that has coaches in it. So life skill coaches. So let's say you lose your babysitter and you come in and say, I'm gonna have to quit school. I don't know what to do. We have coaches that can help give you the advice to say, here's some options for you. We've been doing some fundraising, so I have the flexibility to say, let us be able to help you with that for a month to carry you over, via different types of scholarship or donated funding that just is focused on student support. And so all of those things are changing the way higher ed works, different types of advising, utilizing technology. We now have a GPS system for students to be able to see what courses they should be taking when, and what are the repercussions if they don't stick to a plan. So all of those things are helping us drive more student success.
Now, the retention office that you just mentioned, that's an initiative that you started, right? So is this only unique to Honolulu CC, or is it across the system then?
I think every campus would have their own kind of set of retention strategies, whether or not it's assigned to a counselor, or for us, we've created its own department that really focuses on that high touch feel for students. But we've been studying nationally what's happening, and Hawaii's not unique to the graduation issue. It's not unique to the challenges students face on the mainland as well. And so we're learning from the states that have really been able to get these strategies and deploy them, and then to look at the data to say, this is working, we should continue it, or it's not working, it's not worth doing. So I think everybody has their own kind of flair of that. Our office does other things, such as now that we're into the summer, if a student hasn't yet registered, but they were with us last spring, we're reaching out with a personal phone call to say, you're not yet registered, we noticed. We'd really like for you to come back. Is there anything we can do to help? And sometimes it's very very minor things that can be the barrier.
Right.
For instance, if you owe us a parking ticket, you're not able to register until you
Yes.
clear, right? And that's the way it should work. But just for those students, sometimes that can deter them from coming back. And so we want to be able to help them work through those challenges.
Wow, talking about high touch, you really try to make it work for all your students.
Right.
Now, I also understand that even though you belong to, or that Honolulu CC belong to this UH system, but you're one of the oldest institution, right, within the system.
Right.
Honolulu CC is about, what, 95?
95.
Okay.
So we started out as part of the Department of Education as the technical school.
Okay.
So we were linked when we first started in that manner. And then once community colleges were established across the system, and that was the 50th anniversary that we celebrated recently.
Okay.
And that celebrated the mark of a community college system. And so within that time frame, we switched over into a community college. Many of the others were developed over that time period. And so all of us are a little bit different in age. The neighbor islands as well, they've been growing quite a bit as well.
Right.
So it's exciting.
Wow. Now, I guess I'm curious too. You are passionate about education. You have a lot of students that are supportive of the of Honolulu Community College. So, what do you enjoy most? Or perhaps I can ask you, what is a typical day like for you?
Lots of meetings.
Okay.
So my job is to really coordinate everybody on the ground and make sure that that our eyes are focused on our goals and making sure that we're meeting where the president and where the vice president for community colleges wants us to be. And so those strategies and kind of managing that, having to manage priorities, making sure that the budget levels for programs that need to be able to do certain things are there for them. I reach out to donors. I work with our business community. I sit on our Kalihi Business Association board. So I'm kind of spread out all over the place, but in a great way. I love to be able to talk with people that are committed to the college, that have decided to provide scholarship money for students, of which then I can go back to them and introduce them to the student that they've helped support. Those are really good feelings. But the part about this job that I love the most, and having been at Manoa before, is the students that we have at Honolulu CC, and I'm probably at the other community colleges too, they come in with a different set of challenges, right? And so when I have a student that's really having a hard time and I can step in and help them, when I get to shake their hand when they graduate, there isn't a better feeling than that. And I think that's what makes the job the right job for me, is because I really enjoy it. I enjoy what I do. I love the people that I work with. And so that has helped me do well in my job, because if you like your job, it's easy to go in every day and put all of your effort into that.
Now, you reach out to a lot of different sectors in the community. Let me focus on alumni, and maybe before I say, maybe I can ask the producer if you can roll that video about the Distinguished Alumni Award event, and maybe we can talk about your...
The concept of honoring our distinguished alumni became our Celebrate event. Tonight, we honor the next 4 individuals to join our total 32 distinguished alumni.
Just want to say I'm really honored to be nominated as a distinguished alumni. HCC actually prepared me to be what I am today.
When I first came here to HCC, I went through the series of the 3 interviews, and what I got immediately was the sense of family, and it has never left me since I've been working here for the last 6.5 years.
It just changes your life, It makes you feel more important, and then especially when you can teach others what you have learned.
This school definitely has been a huge part of my life. My mom taught there when I was young, so I kind of grew up there.
Tens of thousands of carpenter and drywall apprentices have gone through the program, and many of them have gone on to have successful careers in an industry that has literally built a better Hawaii for all of us.
Chancellor, I recall having attended similar events at the college, and it's always inspiring to hear from alumni, and they always come back and give back. So we're coming on our second break, so when we return from our break, I'd like to get your take on, your interactions with the alumni and how they've been supportive of Honolulu CC. Great. My guest is Chancellor Erika Lacro, Chancellor of the Honolulu Community College. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on ThinkTech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
If you're just joining us, you've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My guest today is the Chancellor of Honolulu Community College, Erika Lacro. Chancellor Lacro, so we were just watching a short video clip of, I guess, last year's alumni recognition event. So tell us about your interactions with your alumni then.
Sure. We do an event every other year, and we usually focus on honoring between 5 and 10 different alumni that are nominated by our campus community, a lot of times faculty, staff. And interestingly enough, in last year's group, we had half of them, I think half of them were employees of ours now. So not only did they come, to us for education, then they went on to the workforce or maybe stayed with us. So one was one of our math teachers, our lead math faculty member, Lee. She was honored, and really honored for her dedication and knowing what it's like, to be a community college student. And the other one was Scotty Rhodes, who's one of our fire instructors. We have a fire science program that a lot of those who are aspiring to go into a firefighting field may come in and take. And so they were honored. So I believe we're the only community college that currently has an alumni event where we honor them. At the 50th anniversary, the whole system got to honor 50 different individuals, which was great. But we do this on a every other year basis. But it really brings back folks, and then it helps us engage the labor unions that we work with, because a lot of them come through our program as apprenticeship students. We also honor apprenticeship alumni, and so it's a great opportunity, and we like to get our current students in front of the alumni. It's nice they remember the challenges that they had and how giving back can be a good thing, and so we focus quite a bit on that also.
Wow, I learned something new today. I didn't realize that you're the only community college that recognizes your alumni.
In a formal event like that. We're all trying to move a little bit more towards cultivating the alumni, and so we work with our UH Foundation where most of that comes out of. And so a lot of the other campuses, they'll honor them in different ways, but we started doing this when we celebrated our 90th anniversary, so 5 years ago, and it was such a popular event. We have a silent auction, and a lot of the things at the silent auction are made by our faculty, our staff, our students, paintings, huge koa jewelry boxes. I mean, great things that it's really the talent of the campus that puts together.
Yeah, I always think that, I guess from the business college perspective, we get so much support from the alumni. I think there are a lot of things that couldn't be done without them.
True.
Now, let's move on to something different then. I'm curious about your leadership. Of course, I was reading a little bit about you before the interview, and you've been in this position since July 2012, so about 3 years ago. And I guess I read that you're the only woman in this CEO position.
We have Helen Cox is the chancellor at Kauai, so she's also a female. And, and Hawaii CC has a female chancellor as well. So I'm the only female chancellor on the island of the 4 institutions.
Okay, I see. So how does it feel to be in that position?
I've had a lot of really great mentors throughout my time, not only in the University of Hawaii, but when I graduated from the Tim School, I went to work for one of the very large hotels on the island, and I was there for 6 or 7 years. And through that, I was able to gain a lot of practical business as a management trainee and moving into management level work. So there's that level of skill set that I have, then coupled with the understanding the academic environment and understanding how higher ed works, which is different than a business, right? But I have some of those skills that I can bring to the table, which kind of makes me a unique manager in a sense, because I can kind of bridge these two things. But the mentors that I've had in higher ed have really helped guide me, that have been able to provide me with opportunities to get involved with things that I wouldn't normally think that I could be involved in. And so just having those opportunities, you know, presented to you really made me realize what a fascinating place it is to work within the university and how rewarding it is. And so being able to put myself out there and volunteer to work on this project or that project just expands your horizon. So you're able to see all the different things going on, because you being with the university, you can also see there's just so many things out there, and it's a great place to be.
You mentioned that there are things that you would normally not have done were it not for your mentor. Can I dig a little bit deeper into that? What could you be referring to?
Well, when I first started with the university, I started as a faculty member running an internship program, and I thought teaching was for me. And at that point in time, we had a new dean that was really looking for folks that had the skill set to get out into the community, which what I was doing in my current role, had he not said, you know, why don't we try and shift your duties and have you do more of this type of work, you know, without somebody really investing and having that faith in you that you're going to be able to do it, I probably would still be running an internship program. So so it's those kinds of opportunities. And then, you know, once you get a little taste of something new, it's like, wow, what else are we doing? What, you know, how can I now help the folks that work under me be exposed to more interesting, you know, it's when you make your mark on something, you really feel good about it.
Let me touch on that point. You said you help other people develop. So tell me about your leadership style. I mean, you've been in leadership position for a long time. So what is your current leadership style? And then I guess in looking back, some of the lessons you may have learned.
So I would say, I would describe my leadership style as being very team-oriented. I've realized that there's so many things that I know that we can do or do better that I can't do it all myself. And so really being able to hone in on my team, and so I have 9 executives on my team that runs the college, but to be able to hone in on each of them has a very different skill set that's different from one another, right? So being able to focus on what everybody does really good and put them out into those roles versus looking at folks like, well, you know, we need to work on this skill for you. Instead of looking at it that way, and you always want to try and bring up people's skills, but really to focus on what is it you like to do, what is it you're good at doing, and be able to give them projects that are focused in that area. Because then they're happy at work, right? They enjoy the work that they're doing. But I think what I've learned is you really need to surround yourself with people who share the common goals that you do, because then as a team, you've built that trust. I believe people need to be left alone to do what they do best. And so not always being on top of somebody saying, is it done, is it done? I have the trust level in them, and really being able to pick your team appropriately is huge. I've worked in teams that aren't as functional, and you know, you stifle more with kind of the personalities, and so being able to focus on what are we all doing well together, and we have the trust there and we support each other. It's a great environment because within my team, I probably have one of the younger management teams throughout the system. A lot of us have young children, and so we've created a culture just amongst ourselves where things happen when you're young parents, right? And so being able to step in for one another if someone's kid is sick or someone has to take care of something else at home, we really have an environment where it's, okay, what do you have today? Okay, let's parcel this out so you don't need to worry about work, and you take care of what you need to do. And I just find that it's created a culture where people are happy, that they know that they have the ability to say, I've got to call in sick today, I'm just not feeling well and I don't want to push it, or whatever it may be, I need to take vacation. I hired one person and she said, you know, I'm battling with trying to manage home and work, and it's hard, and I don't know if working over at Honolulu is the best, because it could be even harder than where I am now. And I told her about this culture, and she made a comment about kind of missing, you know, the May Day celebrations and things like that. And so I made a comment, and I said, that's not allowed here. Like, you need to go to those kids' events, right? Where in some environments, you don't always have that, and you feel bad asking to take off. So I think knowing that work is important, but so is family, and that we will balance that appropriately, and you know, we're all here as a team, and we can all step in and fill each other's shoes when needed, so that people don't have to worry about that.
Wow, that's a great way in summarizing some of the leadership, you know, nuggets that we learn at a lot of the seminars. I mean, of course, you said that you have a great team and you work with young people, enthusiastic, but I've also read a lot of things about you. Now, I guess my question is, if I were to talk to one of your colleagues, what would they say about you?
I think that they would say that I'm very approachable, which is sometimes half the battle with leadership roles, right? If people don't feel as though they can just walk in your door and have a frank conversation with you, you don't always even know what's going on the ground. And so I have a group of colleagues that I work with that I will say to them, look, when things are bubbling up, I don't know until it's almost, you know, a full-blown problem. I really would like the heads up so I can step in and let's think about some solutions to this, or to things that aren't working. And so having that kind of ear on the ground approach to things, I think, has helped me do well. But then I encourage my team to do the same. Be very involved, be out there, be visible with the people you manage.
Chancellor, it sounds like your team is really lucky to have you. That's all I can say.
I'm lucky to have them.
Now, I mean, at the end, being in a leadership position as a woman, it's still you're still a minority. So for a lot of the young women who may be watching our show, what would be something that you would say to them to have them, you know, to consider being in a leadership role? What would they need to do?
So there's all types of programs, and for the university we have a President's Emerging Leaders program, which I was was in the first year, the first time it was launched. But I think we don't always realize that we have leadership qualities, and so when someone says to you, hey, maybe you should think about that program, I think you really got to have an open mind about trying something new, because it's scary to put yourself out into a place that you're not used to maybe think about doing a new job or serving on a new committee. But when someone shows that they have the faith in you that you're going to be able to do that job, I would suggest they, you know, try it, because you'll never know if you don't try. So you've kind of got to put yourself out there. You've got to come to the table and participate. But the other thing in terms of advice I would give is to connect with someone that you like and you trust and you look up to, and you know, approach them as being an informal mentor. If you could, you know, help provide me advice. And those don't grow by being matched with someone, right? Those really grow out of working together and things of that nature. And so identifying those types of people, because in leadership roles, you're forced to make difficult decisions at times, but you really have to focus on making the right decision for the organization, not necessarily for you or for a particular group on your campus, but what's best for the organization. And to me, that means what's best for our students. And so being able to have a conversation with a mentor if you're a bit unsure, or, you know, learning from them as you start a new project or something of that nature is very valuable.
great to have you today, Chancellor Lacro. I'm looking forward to hearing more about all the new things that's happening in Honolulu College. I'm actually working with one of your staff there, so it's great. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you.
My guest today is Chancellor Erika Lacro. She is the Chancellor of Honolulu Community College. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Please come back again and join us next week. Take care. Bye-bye.